Hello, this is Olga Tamanova and Ukrinform Media Center. It is 561st day since the onset of full-scale invasion, and let us discuss the situation at the borders of our country. We have with us Andriy Demchenko, the spokesperson for the State Bodyguard Service of Ukraine. So let us start with the updates on the front lines. So we know that the bodyguard service is performing their duties there. Yes, bodyguards are a part of Ukraine's defense, and along the front lines they are doing their tasks to fight back against the attack of the enemy country. So we are performing these tasks, and defined by the headquarters, the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, and right now we are given the broader scope of equipment, such as the mortars, such as UAVs, such as MLRS. So we are able to attack the enemy, and we are working daily with the Ukrainian defenders to destroy the enemy, to make sure we advance as fast as possible, liberating all the Ukrainian territories and liberating the entire Ukraine within its internationally recognized borders. One of the units is there in Kupiansk and Bakhmut areas where the enemy tries to attack and prevent our forces from advancement, but the bodyguards are doing their best to protect the Ukrainian land. So yeah, we all are aware of the situation of the sabotage groups being active at the borders. Are they becoming more active, and what you are doing to prevent this? Yes, indeed. In addition to its daily attacks from the enemy territory, and we can see that the enemy is also using sabotage groups which are doing some attempts of getting to the Ukrainian territories, sometimes in small groups, sometimes in bigger ones, especially in Sumy region, where the Ukrainian defenders and the National Guard and the others involved in the defense, they detect these groups, identify them. There are some smaller numbers of cases of using such sabotage groups in the Chernihiv region, but recently we are not observing such activities in Kharkiv region, which does not exclude the enemy's attempts to do that, but well, mainly whatever is being done in Sumy region. So Ukrainian defenders are doing their best to strengthen this effort, and they are working to detect such groups. They are monitoring the situation at the borders, and by the way, the enemy is using some radio fighting units, and so once such a group is detected, they are being fought back. What's happening in Belarus? Well, we are not noticing any changes along the state border of Ukraine, but Yeah, if we look deeper into the territory of Belarus, the changes may be there, but on the state border of Ukraine, the bodyguards and others involved in the protection of the land see no challenges for now. We are continuing to strengthen the border along its length, and also we are installing additional fortifications in the borderline regions so that we are able to fight back in case any attack happens. We need to be able to work against any sabotage attempts, against any attempts to destabilize situation along the border. And also we should point out that Russia lacks any forces in Belarus that would be ready to encroach on the Ukrainian territory. Also, quite often Belarus was used as a training ground by Russians, so there were instances when 10 or 11,000 of Russian troops were there. Right now, all of those Russian troops have left the territory of Belarus, and the new troops have not arrived. And of course, the defense forces of Ukraine and the Ukrainian intelligence is also watching the situation with private military companies, but after the events which we have all witnessed, the presence of Wagner troops in Belarus is actually becoming the thing of the past, because we are seeing the decrease in their numbers there. They are not taking part in any active actions, for instance, aimed to destabilize a situation in Ukraine. And we can see that Belarus, in its support of the Russian war, in its support of the aggressor country, keeps on bringing up different subjects. It artificially creates a migration crisis so that people's attention can be trapped in this. Speaking of our borders with the European Union, what are you noticing there? Summer is over, and over the last 3 days we are noticing the gradual decrease of the numbers, and in summer Ukrainian border was crossed by much bigger numbers of people, especially on weekends. It could be between 140 and 150,000, and especially July and August, there were much higher numbers, up to 4 million people crossing the border over the months. But also in August, we were noticing more people coming back to Ukraine. 100,000 people was the difference between those coming in and coming out. But in June, more people were leaving the territory of Ukraine. Although overall in June, the numbers, the total numbers of people crossing the border were smaller. Right now, the numbers are gradually going down. Since the beginning of the month, it is 620,000 people who crossed the border, over 80% of them citizens of Ukraine. And overall, we can see the 50-50 percentage in those coming in and coming out. And as before, 50% of these border crossings is happening at the border with Poland, which is the most active border of our country. We keep advising people to watch their statistics on border crossings. In case you are planning to cross the border, please make sure that you choose the most optimal pathway, and you need to be aware that this information is being published on the border guards website. If you are choosing Poland as a transit country, please use other border crossing points with the neighboring countries such as Moldova, which have much less loaded borders. Okay, and what are the most frequent violations on the border? Are there any local authorities and state officials crossing the border, thus breaking the ban? Well, there are violations on the so-called green part of the border, which means between the border crossing points, and the crossings on the border crossing points where people are trying to use fake documents. So in terms of statistics, since the 24th of February, we had about 2,000 violators, and in the border crossing points, 6,000 people with fake documents. So on the green part of the border, it is Romania and Moldova, which are the most popular countries for such violations, and illegal documents most frequently are used when crossing the border with Poland. That's because of the highest numbers of people crossing the border there. And so there are cases when such persons are crossing the border, but they do not have the proper foundations, the proper justification for living Ukrainian territory, and this includes men and women. In total, 1.8 thousand people were refused the right to cross the border. And what is going to change since October 1st for women who are going to be subject to military registration? Well, yeah, we are still going to follow the same requirements as before. All the limitations in place right now are about men aged 18 to 60 years of age, and also government officials that have been listed by the government according to their positions. So we are given the lists of those officials so that we can control such officials crossing the border. And there were no other amendments about the women yet. In case there are any changes made concerning the crossing of the border, the border guard service is going to follow those amendments, but over the recent time I can mention two such changes that were included into the list of crossing the border for the wartime period. So the persons whose relatives have died in the anti-terroristic operation, and also the aviation students who are traveling to continue their education and to have training abroad, because the Ukrainian territory is not suitable for that. So this new legislation changes have been made, and so right now these new two additional categories are eligible for crossing the border. Hello, I'm Elena Litvinenko from Ukrinform. I would like to ask about the celebration of Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year in Ukraine. Are there any clear procedure for the Hasidic Jews coming to Ukraine for pilgrimage? Are they already coming, or are we expecting them? And also we have heard that the numbers of enemy troops arriving have increased. So are we noticing any increase of the enemy troops on the border? So if you permit, I will start from this second question. We are not noticing any increase in the numbers of the troops that could be of some impact for Ukraine. Of course, we still need to be vigilant, and we need to watch the situation on the Belarusian border and also on the border with the aggressor country. We need to understand how threatening the situation is for our state and what the enemy can do. But right now we are not noticing any increase in the number of their troops. In terms of Hasidic Jews, we do not have any limitations for the foreigners entering the territory of Ukraine. We have the appropriate legislation in place in case the pilgrims are arriving. They are crossing the border following the same procedures as everyone else, unless there are no limitations for a specific person. Let's say they could have violated Ukrainian migration legislation before, or there can be some specific bans on them. But otherwise, these persons can enter the territory of Ukraine as usual. We are not noticing any organized groups yet. Sometimes these people are arriving separately, and well, in this case, they are controlled using the same principles as everyone else. So once we are noticing any organized groups, we will be somehow assessing the numbers of those coming for the pilgrimage. Yeah, and also, since you have mentioned the rules for the foreigners, have there been any changes to those rules about the citizens of Belarus or Russia? Well, as you are all aware, there is a visa regime for the citizens of Russia. With a visa can a Russian citizen cross the border. They have to confirm the purpose of their visit. They want to explain why they are traveling to the territory of Ukraine, and in this case they can be let in. According to the recent data, there were just about dozens of citizens of the Russian Federation who got Ukrainian visas, and just some of them decided to actually visit Ukraine. But of course, the checkups are always in place, both for the Russian and Belarusian citizens. Thank you so much for joining us today. This was Andriy Demchenko, the spokesperson of the State Bodyguard Service of Ukraine. We are still planning for our tomorrow's events. Thank you so much, and glory to Ukraine.